Helfrich was pulling some strings here during that piñata. We'll talk to Coach in just a second here as we relive what happened for the Ducks a season ago. And it was a heck of a season, avenging that loss to the Wildcats, earning the Pac-12 title. Marcus Mariota, a historic season, earning the Heisman Trophy. And then, of course, the Ducks going into the Rose Bowl. What a great game that was, taking out Florida State. And, of course, moving on to the national championship game. We won't talk about what happened there. I think Mark probably would like to avoid that conversation. Mark Helfrich, the head coach of the Ducks, joins us here. Mark, I'm sure as you've gone through the gauntlet of media, you've been asked about the quarterback position once, twice, maybe three times. I'm curious, is it becoming almost a distraction to talk about a guy who's not with the team right now?
Well, that's the thing. For us, it's been zero distraction.
Okay.
We believe wholeheartedly in the guys on campus, and it's just like any position. You know, the answer is always the guy that's not there, right? It's you know, who's Matt's backup? That guy must be he's got to be better than Matt Leinart. That probably didn't work out very well. But you know, we're confident in our program. We're confident certainly in Jeff Locke. He had a great spring, and no one guy's going to replace Marcus, and we know that.
Coach, I want to ask you about Jeff Locke. There's not a lot of people know a lot about him. Obviously, he's been Marcus's backup. He's played sparingly over the years. Give us something about him. What makes him unique? How has he handled this offense? And if he is a starter, is he ready to take on that role?
Definitely. I think from an analogy standpoint, he's a point guard. You know, he's a guy that he knows everything about our system. He knows our system inside and out. He executed it almost flawlessly this spring. Had a great spring. And, you know, is he going to go 80 running a 4.4? No, but he doesn't need to. He has to distribute the ball to our backs, our receivers, and we have to do a great job as coaches is putting him in the right position.
You know, we're talking about Jeff. Last year, Marcus got a lot of credit for his athletic ability, and I always told these guys in that offense, his decision-making, whether to give the ball off, throw it, or run it, I thought was fantastic. We know Jeff is not that guy athletically, but upstairs, can he be that same guy? Because I think you have to make those kind of decisions in that offense.
Definitely. That's what we talk about all the time. It's instantaneous common sense. That's what it is. And sometimes the really intelligent guys are the worst because they sit there and they think, well, you know, did the defense 4 degrees, 7, you know? And Jeff is both. He's an early graduate in finance, but he can make a ton of instant common sense decisions.
Is there right now one thing, I think the more we talk to coaches, they're never going to feel fully confident 100%. Hey, this is absolutely going to be a great season. We got to improve here. We got to improve there. Is there one aspect that concerns you right now with regard to your team?
Well, we're constantly trying to improve every single year, and I think that you know, maybe right now fighting the noise of what could be or what could this guy, but as you go into fall camp, it's always exciting. You know, I think one person's concern is another person's opportunity. You know, of a guy. The downfall of Oregon football was going to start when Joey Harrington left. You know, the sky was falling. What are we going to do? Right. And somehow they found a way.
Talk about the injuries. You had some significant injuries last year to some impact players. Seems that everyone's getting healthy. Just talk about all the guys coming off injury, and are we going to see most of those guys on the field?
We'll find out.
Right.
You know, we really will. And there's some of those guys, certainly the ones later in the season, we don't know. But they've battled their way back. And that was the thing I was probably most proud of our team last year. We played Arizona in the Pac-12 Championship without 7 offensive starters from, you know, going into fall camp, and never talked about it once. And so, you know, didn't make excuses about being dinged up on defense. They just kept playing and kept improving. And so, you know, I think learned a great deal about our character in that, and moving forward we'll keep the same philosophy.
You know, I'm glad you bring up character, and Matt brought up some guys that were injured. I remember doing the story on Pharaoh Brown and obviously the resiliency that he has shown. What's the latest on his status?
Well, if you look at the wakeboarding videotape online, it looks like that's
doing okay.
We're progressive in many ways. That's not normally the sports medicine's best prescription, but yeah, he's on his way back. I always say it was really scary there for a long time, and the people in Salt Lake and Coach Whittingham and how they touched Pharaoh did a fantastic job, and now it's just a knee injury, you know, and so all that entails going forward, but at least we know what it is. We've got a pretty good plan. We've got a great plan in place, and he's ahead of schedule.
Okay, guys, enough about offense. I want to go to the defensive side of the ball. You know, Eric Armstead is a guy who stood out on your defense and got a lot of national publicity. top guy in the draft, but a guy I really like and enjoy watching is DeForest Buckner.
Yeah.
Talk about Buckner and his impact and what he's going to mean to that defense this season.
DeForest is a stud, has done a great job of replacing a lot of voices of leadership. Ifo Akpeolomu was a guy who was a great leader, and DeForest did a great job in the spring. He was very limited in the spring and had a huge impact. And that's when a guy's maturing and knows that he needs to, step up and play, but maybe not be on the field. But we expect a ton out of him and the depth that we've created there. And then we've got a couple new guys that had, right at the end of spring ball, really started to figure it out and play fast and physical to give us. We have to have, like everybody, 6-8 deep there, and we're headed that direction.
Speaking of 6-8 deep, you lost a lot in the second.
Yep.
You mentioned Ifo. Give me one guy that I can focus on. I think that's going to, for you, stand out right away in the secondary.
Well, yeah, it's dangerous when you give one guy, right? Because Reggie Daniels is the guy that's played the most. Chris Cisse played a fair amount last year, and then I think our secondary situation is a lot like our receiver situation was last year. We've got a bunch of young talent that hasn't played, and so people are uncertain. But like Arion Springs had a really good spring ball, especially toward the end. Ugo Amadi is a guy that was an early enrollee that's growing up and is a very talented guy, still trying to figure out everything that's going on in the defense. And then there's a bunch of other guys that we have high hopes for, versatile guys that will all sort itself out.
What about Charles Nelson? What's his role? I mean, that's another guy that certainly comes to mind.
High impact guy. Yep.
What's the role that you envision for him?
Football player.
Yeah, exactly.
He's one of those guys that, he's like, I was joking, he's like the guy at the swim meet that wins every race, and he's the guy that wins every track event, and he's just just non-stop energy guy and physical. That's the key with him. He's not just a, give me the ball, run a reverse, run out of bounds, punt return, run out of bounds. The guy's physical and returns punts for a touchdown and goes down and makes the play on the kickoff. That type of guy.
Coach, how different is it? You had Marcus for 3 seasons, and going into your first season without Marcus, is it? Of course, the learning curve may be a little different, but you've had Jeff for 2 seasons. He's backed up for 2 seasons now.
Yep.
Is it a little more pressure on you working with him, or because he's had 2 years of being in that offense, it's not as hard making the transition for him?
I think for a guy like that, everything about him except, when things don't go well in the game, you're getting beat up, you've had that happen in your career, what's the response? And every single position he's ever been, I have no doubt about that. But until you're out there, your teammates might. But the team has total belief in him, and I think we know a lot about what we have in him. And then the guys around him, they don't have to be superheroes. They have to do their job great, right? And collectively replace 1 or 2 guys.
I was just going to ask you that when I stepped in for Carson, it was huge shoes to fill. Won a Heisman Trophy. I was a redshirt sophomore, and the team just really rallied behind me. Mike Williams, I'll never forget. He said, "Hey, you don't have to be perfect." He actually just said, "Just throw the ball up to me." Do you feel that as far
Absolutely.
as this team? There's just new faces. Royce Freeman's become a face of the Oregon Ducks. Do you feel that team just say, "Hey, whoever our quarterback is, if it's Jeff, we're just going to rally behind him and say, hey, dude, just drive the car.
Absolutely.
Just drive the car."
Absolutely. That's a perfect analogy, and that's what's the most important one, right? Is the team.
Right.
We can try to sell them on something, but if they don't buy it, it doesn't matter, and so really excited about how they've responded to him in winter conditioning. Jeff did an unbelievable job. We put him in some situations to basically be a guts leader, and he did a fantastic job, and then had a great spring.
Coach, what about for you, though? I mean, 3rd season at the helm. I got to imagine when you get your first head coaching job, you're sort of feeling things out. As a coordinator, you're like, if I ever get that opportunity, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I would run the show. And yet now you've had a couple seasons. You've gotten to a national championship game. Your growth, how do you feel as now the head coach and really your mark on this program?
Part of a program, I think every single day we show up together trying to get better, and that's as a staff, that's as players, that's as sports medicine, academics, everybody shows up with that mentality, and we have a bunch of great people in those positions. We have the longest tenured coaching staff in college football, just a bunch of guys that have a ton of trust and confidence in each other, and every single day there's something. That's the thing about this position is there's always something, so you can't just sit back on a Thursday and go, okay, we're done. Let's go golfing. You have to whether it's recruiting or just efficiency or trying to be innovative in whatever manner, we're going to try to do that.
Coach, you guys have basically dominated the Pac-12 the last couple of years and went out and had to play. No, dominated. So and you go out and you have to play Ohio State and teams like that. What's the biggest difference between playing those kind of teams, the Ohio States, versus playing teams in the Pac-12?
Well, I think the newness of it. We're getting ready to play Michigan State last year or Florida State or whoever. You're trying to go, okay, this team's kind of like SC or this team's kind of like Stanford. Those comparisons, in the conference how, I know that when we play against Utah, you better buckle your chin strap because they're going to bring it. Against so-and-so, you've got the scheme and kind of a little bit down. But that kind of stuff of just trying to make those analogies for your players and then break it down in a way that is meaningful to them.
Because of the results of the national championship game, there have been people nationally that have said, hey, maybe Oregon's got to rethink their philosophy when it comes to obviously what they're doing offensively and maybe even recruiting. Do you buy that at all? Has it at all had an impact on what you guys are doing?
We're gonna try to improve. If we would have won the game, we're gonna try to improve.
Yeah.
And so that's where you have to We won 13 games, we lost 2. The only things that define our program are the 2 losses, right? And so we have to take from those wins, we have to improve. We have to select things that are not good, get rid of them or improve them or whatever, whether that's personnel or scheme, whatever it is. And so our approach that way is the same. There's certainly members of our fan base that if we don't win the national championship, I'm an idiot and we're awful. And that's fine. And that's great to have that expectation. Nationally, if I'm an SEC fan and I'm sitting there going, hey, Pac-12, nobody since SC. That I get that. That's why college football's so great.
It is a lot of fun to watch you guys, and it is great to see that offense rocking and rolling on the football field. Coach, we really appreciate you stopping by with us. Can't wait to be on campus in a couple weeks for the training camp tour.
Looking forward to it.